Hey, on our podcast today, we're going to talk about President Trump's executive order attempting to protect the American flag from burning and desecration. Are you in favor of it? Is it in violation of our First Amendment freedom of expression rights, or is this a well-intended and necessary executive order? We're also going to talk about how our governor in our state next door, Governor Pritzker, is turning institutions of higher learning into abortion facilities. The left continues to double down on their agenda, even though it failed miserably at the ballot box. A highlight of this is that the DNC just got together and they're worried about how they could change the language, this left radical progressive language that alienates so many Americans. They're focusing on purely the Madison Avenue marketing attempt here to repackage a failed plan, while the Americans have already, or most Americans have already rejected that. So we're going to talk about that in our podcast today. We hope you'll join us.
Hey, welcome to the Ron Johnson Discipleship Podcast.
Hey, thanks for joining us. We always appreciate this time of connection about important issues and being able to connect with you, our audience. This is a part two of something we filmed here on this Labor Day weekend.
Labor Day special,
brought to you by Pastor Andrew and myself. 2 for 1 deal.
2 for 1.
All right. Hey, we wanted to circle back around something, just to overcome the media of fake news regarding the president's desire to issue in fact, he just ordered the Commerce Department to begin preparing a new mid-decade census that would count only those who are legally present in the United States. Why does this matter? A lot of on the left are screaming, this is illegal, this is unconstitutional, this is never unprecedented. What's really going on here when we cut through the smoke?
Yeah, so it's interesting. Legally present, so that does include counting people with green cards or the correct visa and whatnot. So these distinctions do matter. So they're excluding those who are illegal by our current law who are here in the United States. Correct? I think that's the understanding of that. The argument for a long time is like it doesn't matter these illegals are here because they don't vote anyway. They can't vote anyway. There's very low evidence, which I doubt, but very low evidence as these illegals are voting. But the greater chess play is not about voting. It's because based on these census is how you draw these congressional maps. They determine congressional representatives. They also determine electoral college votes in the states, which are huge in determining the presidency and also the makeup of House of Representatives.
Yep. So I'm reading here Tony Perkins' opinion piece. Of course, he's the president of the Family Research Council. He said President Trump's proposal to count only those legally residing in the country would force sanctuary cities and states to forfeit the political and financial benefits they've gained through open border policies. The estimated 10 to 11 million illegal immigrants who have entered the United States during President Biden's term were not accidental, he says. While illegal voting has occurred in isolated cases, to your point, the real impact is demographic. Population growth in deep blue states translates into increased congressional representation. And of course, that means control over federal funding because Congress, the House controls the purse. So this is about power. This is about spending. This is about money. And I thought this was very interesting. Tony offered Texas as a case study. He said, with 38 House seats and a red-leaning electorate, it has been a top destination for refugee resettlement under both Obama and Biden administrations, second only to California. So, of course, they're sending lots of illegals to California. But the second state that they're targeting is Texas, which, again, has been a traditional strong red state. But there's been a plan here. These refugees, he writes, lawfully admitted, were disproportionately settled in Houston, Dallas, and Austin, urban centers that have become Democratic strongholds. So he says the pattern is clear. Democrats have used both legal and illegal immigration to reshape the political landscape and redirect federal resources. So this moment is critical because we're not trying to do what the Democrats are doing, which is lie and cheat and steal. We're trying to give a proper, fair representation of who's actually legally living in those states and base the representation congressionally on accurate numbers.
Yeah, this is very interesting to me because most of these people, I think, are settling. They're settling them in large cities. That's my understanding. So the cities are really a mishmash of different people and culture. So there's already very little continuity compared to more of the, more of the suburbs or the more farmlands, right? The cities are really a clash of different cultures. Now you just are kind of shoveling people from all these different places in the world with their own culture, with their own ideologies into the city. And what you're forming is a powder keg of ideology, of divisiveness, of potential crime, and all these crazy things that's happening we see in California and LA. It's happening in these cities. And so they're kind of, to me, they're sacrificing cities, the continuity in cities. People keep saying diversity is our strength. Diversity is our strength. No. Ask any company, diversity of talent, of ability, of perspective is a strength.
Right.
But you need alignment in their values.
Right.
You need alignment on the focus on the vision and the direction the company is going. No company is saying diversity of values is good. No, that's why they have core values. So in a city, when you have diversity, not just perspective, but diversity of religion, diversity of values, diversity of the worldview, that is not a good place to not just raise your kids, not a good place to live. It is a power keg for division and crime. And that's where you're sitting in major cities. And lo and behold, that's what we have.
Well, we've all seen these maps of red versus blue, right, of the United States and the counties that supported President Trump or supported, say, conservative values versus the liberal stronghold areas.
Yeah.
And all of our major urban areas are deep blue. The problem is those deep blue areas have a concentration of votes that control really the rest of the state. So, for instance, you look at our neighboring state of Illinois. I would say most folks in Illinois are not rabid liberals who are promoting all the kinds of things that J.B. Pritzker and his crew are promoting. I would say they were people that share, for the most part, Midwestern conservative values, and yet they are not being represented because of the overwhelming number of people in our urban centers who tend to vote, deep blue. So again, just simply having proper representation. Of course, we know the end game of all this is political power and all that, and we understand the battle. But I think it's important what President Trump is doing, and important for our listeners to support what he's doing if we care about truth and fairness and equal representation and not rigging the system for one party or the other. So anyway, that was good. And something else that the president did, which I did a little research on and reading about and thought was interesting, was passing an executive order to protect our flag from being burned by demonstrators or mobs or whatever. I don't know about you, but when I sit and I watch the evening news and I see our flag having gasoline or some other flammable, liquid poured on it and ignited in the streets, people stepping on it, mocking it, burning it. You expect that from nations overseas, maybe that hate us. You certainly should not ever expect to see that here at home among American citizens. And so President Trump said this, and I appreciate his comments. Our great American flag is the most sacred and cherished symbol of the United States of America and of American freedom, identity, and strength. Over nearly 2.5 centuries, many thousands of American patriots have fought, bled, and died to keep the stars and stripes waving proudly. The American flag is a special symbol in our national life that should unite and represent all Americans of every background and walk of life. Desecrating it is uniquely offensive and provocative. It is a statement of contempt, hostility, and violence against our nation, the clearest possible expression of opposition to the political union that preserves our rights, liberty, and security. What do you think about the president's comments there?
Yeah, it's interesting. On this face value, when I first heard about this issue, I was kind of like, is this a free speech issue?
Yeah.
Because my whole thing is, I like free speech. I don't want to just be for free speech when it's on my side. I want to be free speech on both sides, right? But
Exactly.
So I'm hesitant to just jump on the bandwagon with this. But I think as I read more into it, even as you're articulating, going through the Supreme Court case studies of what happens, it makes more and more sense, the idea that the flag is apolitical. When you support, so it's interesting, the flag is not supposedly support the D or the R or libertarian and whatnot. The flag is supposed to represent us.
Us, as
who
Americans.
we are. So if you're burning the flag fundamentally, you're saying, hey, we are against this American experiment or whatever that is. To which my reply would be, then why are you here? Because if you're it's not, your free speech is, I want all of us to burn, which again, I'm not saying they're saying that, but if that's what you're saying, my question will be, then I don't want you within the gates then, right? Or is that still protected free? So that's an interesting debate right then and there. If someone's openly saying, I want all of this come down, all of this America, the American experiment, everything about the Constitution, all of that should burn. I guess my question is, should that person be within our nation? Should they
Exactly. Why are they here?
Or should they even be in Congress? Because we have people like that in Congress. That's a question we have to ask.
Yeah, unbelievable. I appreciate the history on this. Sometimes people look at Trump as a firebrand, and he's a fascist. He's taken over all this power. Actually, on so many of his initiatives, he's trying to restore American greatness. He's trying to put America first, and he's actually going back in the true spirit of conservatism to conserve what we once had, but it has now been lost. Let me give you an illustration.
Yeah.
In point, I didn't realize this, but 48 out of 50 states had passed similar statutes regarding the protection of the flag. It wasn't until 1989 when the Supreme Court revisited this, and William Brennan was joined by Harry Blackmun, Anthony Kennedy, Thurgood Marshall, and Antonin Scalia, supporting a reversal in policy that this was a First Amendment thing. Mm-hmm. Chief Justice William Rehnquist and Justices White and Sandra Day O'Connor were part of the dissent. But this is what Rehnquist said, and I think it, to the point you just made, makes sense to me. The American flag, throughout more than 200 years of our history, has come to be the visible symbol embodying our nation. It does not represent the views of any political party, and it does not represent any particular political philosophy. The flag is not simply another, quote, idea or, quote, point of view competing for recognition in the marketplace of ideas. Millions and millions of Americans regard it with an almost mystical reverence, regardless of what sort of social, political, or philosophical beliefs that they have. He writes, I cannot agree that the First Amendment invalidates the act of Congress and the laws of 48 of the 50 states, which make criminal the public burning of the flag. J.D. Vance referred to this case, which was Texas versus Johnson, on social media, explaining that the president's executive order is consistent with the Supreme Court's decision. However, he added that the Texas versus Johnson was wrong and William Rehnquist was right. So here we are. We're just going back again to some of these battles, just like Roe v. Wade and others. Yeah. Just because something was ruled on in a previous, era does not mean that it was correct. And so I think it's good to go back and say, hey, let's reconsider this, because every time we see somebody burning a flag, they're doing it to incite some type of greater, violence or whatever. So we got buildings burning down, flags being burned. If you're a veteran or you lost a son in the war, fighting for everything that America is, and you see some moron out on the street burning up the American flag, that almost would incite me to run in there, do something, put the flag out, push the guy off. It could escalate into violence because there are many, many people like myself who say, that is absolutely demeaning, rude, inappropriate. If you don't like America, get out of here. Leave. Go somewhere else.
So it's interesting you mentioned the people who supported that decision and against. Embedded in the people who are agreeing are conservatives and liberal judges. Scalia is the lion conservatism, but I think there's some other liberal justice. And then in the people who dissented, there were some conservative and liberal justices. So this is not. So this to me is like almost not a liberal injustice. Now, what is interesting to me is the fact that America first or you should love America is no longer it is a political issue now.
Right. No, that's
which
a good
is
point.
very interesting, right? Because, I bet 30 years ago, being America first, like let the American government mostly represent American citizens. And
let's just pause there.
Yeah.
Like, this should not be like a radical idea. You're called to represent the country and the people of your country, to say America first, as we would say any other nation first.
Right.
That's exactly what you should be thinking about, is your people, unless you're a globalist, which is, again, we have a lot of folks now who've embraced
I think there is a misuse of the whole, like, love your neighbor as yourself kind of theme that kind of it's a misuse of that. And under the guise of globalism, I'm arguing will be like, hey, if you're yourself is sick, how are you going to help other people? Get yourself well and then help other people, right? But that idea, America first, has become political. If you're a conservative, you think American first. If you're a liberal, then no, who cares about that? That's the reason why I think the burning flag thing has become so controversial. Because if you want to care about America first is a political speech, which I don't think it should be, but burning now the flag is simply downstream of that. That's why it's so controversial today.
No, I think that's a good point. We went through the whole thing of professional athletes refusing to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, refusing even to show up on court. All of a sudden, being patriotic became a political issue. Another one of the dividing points. People's right to hate the country, that they're here. I saw I forget the guy's name, but he's doing a lot of videos now on social media where he sits down and debates students, and he sat down with a avowed, young Marxist here, and being produced from our American universities, and basically told her, look, I will pay for you to basically drop your U.S. citizenship and to leave this country. I'll fly you out to whatever communist country of your choice right now. And the person backpedaled and made some stupid excuse. But the point is, that to me is the best argument. Like, if you're you hate America so much, what country do you want to go to that you're so excited about? No one ever offers to leave the country, which would be the not radical, but the common sense thing to do. Like, you hate where you're at, so move. But that's never it. They just want to stay here and cause disruption, burn flags, disrespect our nation's heritage, disrespect those who have shed their blood for the freedoms of this country. It's just, I'm glad that the president is taking a strong-armed approach at some of these, first of all, illegals who are here, who are, undermining everything America stands for, creating all kinds of disruption, anti-Semitic and everything else that we're seeing. I'm glad that he's trying to deport them, and I think that is what should be happening.
Well, I think about it from this perspective. Burning a flag is basically saying I'm unhappy with what America is going through. Now, if you asked me 3-4 years ago, was I happy with what America is going through? I would say no. I would be very unhappy. And but
did you burn the American flag?
Well, no, I wouldn't burn American flag. And at that point, if you asked me, hey, we have a flag burning party to celebrate, to protest against everything Joe Biden's doing, I would not do that because I instinctively still identify the flag not with Joe Biden or whatever, the Democratic Party, whatever it is. And I'm hoping, and because I see the flag as something that transcends that. And maybe that's what Trump is trying to do. He's trying to say, elevate the flag beyond political means as a uniting factor, which to me will be amazing. Because if you don't have that uniting factor, you know what? Something will fill that void as a uniting factor. And a lot of times it's globalism. It's the sense of like, hey, everywhere is equal, every place equal. We got to distribute our wealth so that if everyone's equal, then and everyone's poor. That's what that means.
Right.
So I think that's what Trump is trying to do, because he sees this violent shift towards globalism that he's trying to shift just violently back. So that's kind of my thoughts on that.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see where this goes. And while I'm a massive free speech advocate, we also understand there are limitations to free speech. You know, the popular example, you can't go into a movie theater and yell fire, because you have the free speech to misrepresent what's going on and cause all kinds of chaos. I think the same argument could be made, and I think the president stated it well, that the flag represents us. And if you don't like us and you can't be a part of us and you can't support us and you can't work towards change in a civil way, then we're certainly not going to allow you to burn what represents us as an act of protest or whatever. I'm for drawing lines at good place. I think that's a good place. We talked on another issue. We talked about how the left continues to double down on policies that are failed. In the last episode, we talked about the tragic shooting that took place at the Catholic school, and how the left immediately went on their trans insanity, message, supporting again the killer who was a trans, and we highlighted all the other killers who are trans, and it's mind-boggling to me anyway that would be the approach, the insensitivity to everybody who's got a child in school and expecting a safe environment for learning, to have this type of atrocity happen, and then to go on it's what the left always does. They always go on the side of the perpetrator of violence instead of the victim. They're always supporting the rights of the criminals over the rights of the law-abiding citizen. They're supporting the rights of the people who are here illegally over the rights of the people who pay taxes and who are here legally. I mean, they continue to do this. So it should come as no surprise that in our neighboring state of Illinois, Governor J.B. Pritzker just signed a new law ordering public colleges and universities to keep the abortion pill in stock. He said, upon signing Bill 3709, he was, quote, very proud of forcing public academic institutions to provide free the controversial abortion pill. If a college has a health center, they are required to have abortion drugs on hand. If the school does not have a health center, they are mandated to prescribe abortion pills that students can get off campus through telehealth. Reportedly, this policy was largely inspired by a push from pro-abortion activists. On the same day, it says Pritzker signed a separate bill that adds even more protections for abortion providers in the state. So here we have, again, a radical leftist government. Pritzker, of course, is one of the leaders in the whole trans issue and promoting that among young people. And now Illinois, of course, is one of the most rabid states for promoting abortion, even though what some of the folks who are criticizing this bill have pointed out, that abortion pill is incredibly dangerous for women. Obviously, it kills their babies. It's also dangerous for the health of a woman, and many, many times. So anyway, this again is shocking to me, but not shocking. Some of the folks that are criticizing this have pointed out that pregnancy is not a disease that's cured by abortion. This isn't about health care. It's about political payoffs to Planned Parenthood and the abortion industry interests, sacrificing young women's safety for an extremist agenda. Students should not have to pay for pills that kill. That was President Kristen Hawkins of Students for Life legislative arm. Another one wrote on X, you push men into women's spaces and you advocate for the murder under the guise of health care. You and your ideology are a plague to humanity. So there's a lot of people that are expressing strong opposition to this. But once again, back to your point, I think this has become part of their religion. This is something that is sacred to them, and they're going to push it and push it, no matter what the cost. This was interesting. A recent study found that more than a third of women who use abortion drugs were unprepared for the level of pain and bleeding that they encountered. It says now these dangerous drugs will be readily accessible to young women who may be left to suffer alone in their dorm rooms. Women and their unborn babies deserve real help and support, not abortion drugs. So again, a tragic situation where higher education is becoming anything but places of higher education. Now we're actually promoting them as centers for the murder of their own children while they're at school. I mean, this is tragic for women, tragic for obviously for men as well, and tragic for obviously the babies who lose their life. But that's what's happening in Illinois. While all this is going on, let's talk a little bit about the Democratic National Committee's gathering, where they are trying to regroup and talk about what direction they're going to be headed in the next election.
Yeah, I didn't know there's still a thing.
Well, they are.
I think they kept switching their director. I think they're struggling with finances. So good for them. They're still together.
Well,
the band's still together.
The band is still together. But this is what they did. They met and unanimously approved a resolution affirming what they are calling, quote, the American values of diversity, equity, and inclusion. I quote here, diversity, equity, this is a Bill Owen from a delegate from Tennessee. Diversity, equity, and inclusion are American values. This is what America was built on. Yeah. No, really? Well, the problem is those words, the definition of those terms really, really matters. We are all about diversity in the body of Christ. There's going to be people from every tribe and nation, language, and tongue gathered around the thrones of the Lord Jesus Christ, celebrating incredible diversity and unity around truth and around Jesus. But that's not the diversity and equity and inclusion they're talking about.
Yeah, none of those words apply to reality. They don't work in reality. They're funny things that people say to make a political point, but in the practical, in the business world realm, it doesn't work in the long run because they fly in the face of natural laws. So it just doesn't work. Like I said, no business exists on diversity of values. No organization can exist on diversity. No family can exist in diversity of values. Diversity of perspective and gifting, but a alignment in values. So that D doesn't work. You can't be inclusive of everybody. As you're inclusive of everyone, you're going to be exclusive of the one who don't support some other group. You have to exclude somebody just by nature. So these things don't work.
Right. Yeah. And we talked about that during some of the battles in our state where the word discriminate became a bad word. Yeah. While
they're discriminating.
Pointing out we all have to discriminate all throughout the day. Discrimination is not bad. We make discriminations.
All animals are equal, but some animals are more equal than others.
Right.
That's all we have to keep saying. Animal farms.
Yeah.
Orwell.
So interestingly enough, they're offering some really great solutions for the whole Israel-Gaza conflict, talking about sanctions on Israel. So we're going to punish Israel. The other one was the age-old two-state solution, which we saw how that works when Israel is invaded by Hamas and has their citizens slaughtered. This is senior FRC fellow Jody Heiss. He said they continue to find points of unity that the American people reject. It's frankly astonishing that the party would want to double down on that. Once you've been rebuked at the ballot box, it's time to go back to the drawing board, but they're not doing that. Instead, they're doing all this marketing stuff. They're trying to isolate language that the American people are not identifying with. And let me, I'm going to give you a list and give our listeners a list of words and phrases that prior to the Biden administration, none of us had ever heard of. And I think most of us still find offensive, or we just don't even understand what they're talking about. So this was a group that was center-left, all right, in the Democratic Party, which center-left means you're conservative in the Democratic Party now because they are so far out there. But they issued a memo last Friday, quote, to all who wish to stop Donald Trump and MAGA. that beg Democrats for the sake of their own political fortunes to stop using language that alienates normal people. Now that's funny. Stop talking in ways that alienate normal people, which means you are not normal. We're trying to train non-normal people to stop alienating normal people, which is hilarious in and of itself. But here's a list of the most offensive, alienating, or off-putting terms that were recently coined by the left. Privilege. How many times do we hear that word, right? Mm-hmm. Triggering. Mm-hmm. Talking about the emotional fragility of especially in the case of college students. Microaggression. I think most Americans would still have a hard time defining, like, what is a microaggression?
Well, I can use it in a sentence. Your microaggression, the use of that microaggression is causing me aggression.
So you're triggered. You're offended.
I'm triggered by you using that word microaggression.
Oh, yeah, to put the shoe on the other foot. My microaggression is causing you to be triggered.
No, your use of that word microaggression, instead of just telling me to my face, like, you disagree with me. If you disagree with me, just tell it to me. Right. Don't be like, hey, your microaggression is affecting. It's like, what do you mean by that?
So this goes back to really, I'm a victim in what you said to hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
And I'm wanting to
punish you. And my counter to that is like, you're making me a victim. Well, you're a victim. We just go round and around and see who can be a better victim.
How about this one?
Fun. That's
creating
fun
safe spaces.
Yes.
Where people
contradiction in itself,
certain color, people with certain ideology. So we're not going to allow someone to come on campus, right, to share their views, because this is a safe space, meaning only people who believe a certain way are allowed to be here.
Right. So on one side of the coin, it's a safe space for some. On the other side is unsafe space for the other group.
Sure.
So that's the reality. Just say it. It's called discriminatory safe place.
Yeah,
that's
and it's called being a grown-up living in a world where people have different viewpoints. Opinions, and you need to put on your big boy pants and hang out, all right? Body shaming. So now, for instance, if somebody is incredibly obese and we're putting them on, the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition model, which, by the way, I don't approve of, but nevertheless, we're saying that we should celebrate somebody's obesity or celebrate whatever other thing that they have that in the past would be, no, we don't celebrate that. We should help you, correct that. How about systems of oppression, right? That's what the West is all about, systems of oppression. Of course, along with that, we have patriarchy. How about this one? This is something I think most normal people just go, what the heck are you talking about? A birthing person or inseminated person. So we're not talking about moms. Again, that used to be a woman, but now we're confused with gender, so we have to change that. We have, how about this phrase, pregnant people. Chest feeding. That's when, of course, a man tries to feed a baby with a prosthetic device, I guess. Cisgender. Dead naming.
I don't know what that is.
That's when you use somebody. So you used to be Andrew, but now you become Sally. And so if I call you by your name, Andrew, that's your dead name because now you become somebody else. Oh, so we have to use your new name.
So you use my resurrection name.
Yes. Yes. Heteronormative. All right. Intersectionality. I like this one. Incarcerated people. We're not going to call them felons. Right. We're going to call them incarcerated people. We had this whole list of words that the left created under this DEI ideology. And so anyway, after all of this, the guy writes here, for a party that spends billions of dollars trying to find the perfect language to connect with voters, Democrats and their allies use an awful lot of words and phrases that no ordinary person would ever dream of saying. The intent of this language is to include, broaden, empathize, accept, and embrace. The effect of the language is to sound like the extreme, divisive, elitist enforcers of wokeness that the Democratic Party has become. So anyway, they're trying to deal with all of these things instead of just dropping it and realizing it's a losing horse in the race. They're trying to resurrect it. and maybe soften the language or something, but it's just not working, and they just continue to drill down. He said, I thought this was funny, normal people don't need to be told to act normal. So here we are, the point again being we're having to tell the entire Democratic Party leadership we need to act more normal, meaning you're not acting normal because you're the one that's abnormal. Your views are abnormal. Your perspective of reality is abnormal. The Democratic Party is certainly in a tough spot. Recent polling showed that they are just a 24% approval rating among registered voters with 56% disapproval rating. That's bad news. And as you pointed out in the last podcast, the reason for this doubling down is because this really is a religious driven argument.
Well, on that note, so as I'm listening to those terms, I thought it was interesting. A lot of them, not all of them, a lot of these terms are their religious response to sins in this world. Patriarchy. It's a response to... It's their religious response to men abusing their power and men abusing their strength, which happens in a sinful, fallen world. But we have a solution to that. It's called Jesus Christ. It's called the blood of the Lamb. Yeah. It's called fathering. It's called discipleship. It's called man standing up to what they're supposed to do, calling a man up to their rightful place to lead well, right? But their response is to shame the mantle of leadership in the man and call it patriarchy and all these different things. So there's a lot of counterfeit responses, and maybe some of them they're well-intentioned. They see a problem, they see discrimination, they see racism, and they want to embrace it through the best way they knew how. But I can't help but see underlining all of that is the best way humans can is in these Ivy League towers to come up with these ideology and language alternations to solve the problem that they simply cannot solve, because the reality is that the problem is not behavioral modification. It's not just language. Language is a downstream from the sins of the heart. And the only solution we really truly have is through Jesus Christ. So to me, there's a sadness as I'm go through all those terms is these people who are doing, maybe some of them are doing their best to try to solve a problem that only Jesus Christ can solve.
Yeah. Well, when you bring up the word patriarchy, that's probably a good transition for us. Being the patriarch of your family used to be a word that was a compliment on the one hand, but it also reminded you of the incredible responsibility you had. I think the kingdom of God is patriarchal. We have a Father in heaven who sends his Son, Jesus Christ, to die for our sins. We have the order God established in marriage and the family with the husband as the head of his household. Of course, we understand that Jesus Christ himself is the model for that. So to your point, it's not a patriarchy that is heavy-handed or abusive in any way.
Leadership by laying down your life. That's what it means.
By service. But also I think it talks about, reminds us that men and women are different. And that the Bible over and over again says, when it talks to men, says, be strong, stand, be a man. Synonymous with manhood is strength. And of course, just physiologically, biologically, men are stronger than women. That's the way God designed us. And we're to use that strength, as you pointed out, to serve, to love, to care, to cherish, to nourish, all of those things. So we are hosting the Band of Brothers here at Livingstone's Church. This is available to and open to any man who's listening to the podcast. We hope that if you're within driving distance, flying distance, whatever, that you'd make time to attend this. It's coming up in October. Starts on a Thursday night, goes all day Friday, ends at Saturday by noon, so you can get back home to your church by Sunday. But we've got a video clip here that we want to show. So let's go to that clip right now. And again, we hope you can take this in and come. talked about in the last podcast the importance of marriage and family. But I would like to point out, in response to our Band of Brothers event that's coming up, I want to point out that as the family goes, so goes the nation. But as the man goes, so goes the family. When men love the Lord, when men lead strong in their families, when men love their wives, when men love Jesus, when men serve, and they do so with godly character, there's not a woman on planet Earth that doesn't want to follow that man's leadership. I mean, we all hate the patriarchy. Those are usually women who have been hurt or let down, by men, abused, victimized by men. But godly manhood, godly patriarchy is something that every woman would find desirable, attractive, because it simply means coming under a man who is submitted to Christ, choosing to willingly come into, a marital covenant with that man, and recognize that God has placed him as the leader of your home. I have never found a woman who has trouble submitting to a man who loves her like Jesus. And again, so this, I can't say strongly enough to all the guys listening, make time to be together with other men who are pursuing godly manhood. Make time to be a part of this gathering, not only for the strength of our own church, but for the strength of churches that are part of our network across the nation. And if there's one thing I think that we can be committed to helping become the solution to so many of the problems that we talk about on this podcast, it's building good men and godly men, and then teaching them to lead well and love well. And that's what this conference is dedicated to. So, Band of Brothers, we're focusing on standing strong and being strong men of God, and we hope that you'll register quickly and make plans on attending. Even if you have to take that Friday off work, it is a great day to take off work to be with. We're expecting well over 500 men to be a part of the event this year, and it's going to be really, really powerful. So, thank you guys for being with us. We hope what we're talking about has been helpful to you. We look forward to being with you again next Thursday, Lord willing. We'll see you then.